Good morning. I'm David Hay, Planning Commission staff. Councilman Sidro couldn't be here, so I'm going to try to go through this agenda the best I can. I guess we need a roll call vote. Declaration of quorum. Oh, we do the pledge before that? Let's do the pledge instead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so now we'll do the roll call.
Good morning. Let's see, Chair Citro is excused today. Cal Hardy.
Running late.
Una Johnson.
Here.
Julie Ham or Mark Hudson. Michael Marino.
Here.
Melissa Colazzo. David Hay.
Here.
Emily Hinsdale.
Here.
Tony Monk.
Here.
Larry Josephson. Karen Kress.
Here.
Matt Lewis.
Here.
Omar Alvarado. Scott Drainville or Bobby Edwards. Jason Jackman.
Here.
Catherine Coyle, I believe, is also excused. Arizona Jenkins. Carlos Ramirez.
Here.
Sarah Hendricks.
Here.
Christina Steffen.
Here.
Gloria Belangia.
Here.
And Gus Ignis. Lisa, do you have 9 in the room?
I do.
Chair, we do have an in-person quorum. Would you please call for a vote for consent for remote participation?
Call for the vote. Declaration of quorum.
Can you make a motion first? All right, I move that we allow virtual participation.
Second. All right. I guess we take the vote. Just all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
I did want to let you know that Arizona is online and virtual. And who made the motion and the second on that, please?
Michael Marino and Carlos Ramirez.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, approval of minutes from the August 24th meeting. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nobody's opposed.
David, Lisa with me is abstentions. I wasn't at the last meeting.
So Tony Monk abstains. All right. We will move on to, Carl isn't here right this moment, so we're going to move on to the Tampa International Airport Master Plan process with Gina Evans.
Good morning. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you, but a little louder would be great.
Okay, let me get closer to the computer. Let me figure this out. Sorry. Did not realize I was going first.
Now I can hear you better. Sending you the.
No, that's yes, perfect. Let me get you showing my screen. Okay. Sorry. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Screen share. Sorry, not. Okay. I cannot get on air showing screen.
Okay. We see your power.
Sorry, guys. You can?
Yeah, but it's not in slideshow mode yet.
Okay, perfect. As long as you guys can see it, and then I can put it in slideshow. There we go.
Okay.
Good? Are you good, kids? Can you guys see it?
Yeah, we see your side slides, but that's good.
Okay, sorry. So good morning. I'm Gina Evans with the Tampa International Airport, here to provide you guys a master plan update. Sorry for the technical difficulties this morning. you guys all know, we have at Tampa International Airport, we have four air sides. And oh, what did I just do? There we go. We have 4 air sides, and I'm so sorry, guys. 4 air sides with 58 gates. We have almost 23 million annual passengers. Our highest traffic month is usually March. Our lowest traffic month is September. We also own and operate 3 general aviation airports, Peter Knight, Plant City, and Tampa Executive. We generate over $14 billion in economic activity each year, and we are the 28th busiest airport in the United States, which does make us a large hub. Florida is unique in that we are the only state with 4 large hub airports. We support over 121,000 jobs, and over 10,500 people are employed by our airports and its tenants. For this slide, oh my gosh, doing this. So our top 3 largest markets are New York, Chicago, and Detroit. Our largest carriers are Southwest, Delta, and American. We have 80 nonstop destinations and 17 international destinations. This is our revenue slide, and you can see most of our revenue does come from our airlines. This is a shift for us. Previously, we had our airline agreement changed about 2 years ago, where parking used to be our largest section. And basically what we did is we went to rates by resolution, and so the airlines now pay for everything that they're using at the airport. The previous agreement was actually pre-2001, so it was pre-September 11th, so they were not paying for a lot of the security aspects that directly benefit the airline passengers. Our passenger projection, you can see 16.9 million was in 2013, and we are slowly climbing out, and then you can see 2020 went down, and we are projected to handle over 23 million passengers this fiscal year. Operating revenues there we go. Operating revenues went from $184 million in fiscal year 2013 to over $343 million for our fiscal year 23 budget, which we just started on October 1st. We are on the federal fiscal year. Market resilience. So you guys, this is our recovery from COVID, and you can see the blue line is our recovery, and the red line is the national average, and you can see that those are starting to come together. For a while, we were really outpacing our the rest of the country. International passengers, we served 89,000 international passengers in July, which is about 17% down versus 2019, but a 521 increase from July of 2021 when international borders were closed. Our new airlines, we're very excited to start November 2nd with Virgin Atlantic nonstop flights to London Heathrow. We've also added Breeze, which, if you guys are not familiar, is the gentleman who started JetBlue Airlines. This is his entrant into the lowest cost carrier market. You can fly to Charleston for about $58 round trip with JetBlue level of service. Avelo, and then Eurowings Discover, which is a spinoff of Lufthansa, and that serves our Frankfurt flight. The map of everybody wants to know where we're going next. These are our largest underserved markets. It does not mean we are getting nonstop flights here. These are just the targets that we have, and you can see still some on the West Coast, as well as some international to the south and over in Europe. We had the Amsterdam flight for a while on Delta, and we're hoping that that one will return. So growth and modernization. So our master plan, every 10 years we are to determine and show how we're going to plan for growth for the next 20. Our 2012 master plan, which you are all familiar with, was phase 1, the decongestion, which is complete with the rental car center, the automated people mover system, and the main terminal expansion and concessions redevelopment. Phase 2 are the enabling projects, which is underway, Sky Center development, which I'm doing this from our new office building, Sky Center, our central utility plant, the roadway expansion, and the curbside expansion. The next phase is a 16-gate airside D, which the RFP went out last week on that one for, that was a delayed project that will rebuild airside D. This is more on airside D. The board approved this in September, and airside D was scheduled to begin the design phase in 2021. We delayed it because of COVID. And the existing, so if you guys are at the airport, if you guys were to come out to the airport today, it's where UPS and Amazon are operating. So we are in the process of relocating our cargo carriers to rebuild Airside D. It'll be a 16 gate. There'll be 16 swing gates, so both domestic and international. There's international passenger arrival processing facilities. You will actually go upstairs instead of down into a basement. And we are having to rebuild the shuttle and guideway system. So if you're in behind like the Chick-fil-A in the food court in the main terminal, that's where like D would come back in. And this is a video on Airside D. So you can see how it just really fits into our campus very well. It'll be a beautiful building. Again, 16 swing gates. So we're not sure, we are in the process of moving, figuring out what domestic carrier will move over there. All of our international arrivals will move over there. So this is the view if you're an international arriving passenger. You just got off the plane, you're going upstairs to customs. We are going, the building will be full biometrics, all the latest technology, as well as you can see going up into this bright area versus going down into a basement. You will do bags first, which is easier for the passenger than going through customs and getting your bag and having to do all that again. So this is now you're leaving and you're going down the escalator or elevator to get onto the shuttle car to go back to the main terminal, which again, using like the very similar existing shuttle service that we have today. So you can see it will come in over closer to the Marriott for getting back to the main terminal. There will be opportunities for more lounges at this airside, as well as outdoor terraces that you're seeing. So this is the view if you're a departing passenger. You can see the outdoor terrace space, and again, all the glass, very different than most international arriving experiences. So this is now, you're walking towards the security checkpoint. Again, Airside C is the only airside that was built after September 11th. So that is why that's the widest checkpoint. This will give us that same opportunity to have more space at a check-in, the TSA checkpoint. Again, high-end concessions, very similar to what we have today. We're not sure who those will be yet and what that process will look like. We're in the process of determining the concession redevelopment for Airside D. And again, that open air space, and you know, a lot of times visitors, international visitors, their first and last impression is the airport. And so we want that to be as welcoming and as much like Tampa Bay as possible. And so we're really excited to get this project started. And again, this is the total budget, about $787 million. We're using a variety of different funding sources, and it will be complete in 2027. So 2022 Airport Master Plan update, again, required by the FAA and FDOT, and we are looking at everything. We are in the process of doing that, our big master plan now, and this will help us for the plan for the next 20 years. It takes about 2 years to do this. We're right in the middle of it. So things that we're looking at: airfield capacity, ground transportation parking requirements, identify future access and on airport circulation. As you all know, it's, you know, our roads, while they're on our property, they have to connect into the community. EV tolls, so advanced air mobility. This is like the Liliums, the Jobies, the flying air taxis. It is here. We are very excited about embracing this technology and how it will integrate into our facilities. Again, the biometric gate check, self bag drop, autonomous vehicles, curbsides, all of those different things. And this will take us, this master plan will take us out to 2042 to show how we will grow again for those next 20 years, which will take us to about 38 million annual passengers. Airport master plan community outreach. So we have been hosting community outreach meetings. The next set of those will be on November 16th. One will be here at Tampa International Airport, and the other one will be in Pinellas. I don't know if any of you guys have been out to the airport lately and have used our Express Blue curbsides. They are the first in the country. And these are passengers that are not checking your bag or arriving passengers, again, without check bags. So if somebody's picking you up and dropping you off, I highly recommend you use the Express Blue curbsides. They are, when you're like, if you're on an Uber, you can actually hit Express Curbside and they'll take you over there. And what it does is you actually go up through a vertical circulation straight to the 3rd floor, so you're not dealing with ticketing or baggage claim. The Red Express will open in 2025. Sky Center, again, this is our beautiful new office building that I'm sitting in right now. We have 3 floors. It's a 9-floor office building. You can see there's a cafe, a gym, a huge conference room, and it is LEED certified. It also does connect into the Pinellas trail system and all the system through West Shore. We also have bike share now, so that's super exciting. TPA parking, one of the other things that we launched during COVID was online booking for parking. And so basically what you do is you go on to our airport, the airport website, you select what garage you're in, you're guaranteed a spot. You don't get to pick your exact spot, but then you get a QR code and you just hold that up to the sensor for both when you arrive at the airport and then when you are departing. And there will always be promotional pricing online. So it will always be cheaper to book online. So we highly recommend that, especially right now where our garages are filling up because of construction. And so if you are traveling during the holidays, I highly recommend you use this product. Again, more technology, TPA to go. Think of Uber Eats, but for the airport. So you're at Airside C, you're flying Southwest, but you really want that Columbia sandwich. You can go on TPA to go and they will deliver it out to your airside wherever you are. So you're not just ordering from from the airside that you're at, you can order from across the airport. Biometric screening, we have biometric screening for both exit and entry. What this is allowed for customs is that you can board a flight in less than 30 minutes now for international. And we've all been on that where your like boarding pass and your passport and everything else, all of that is gone. It is your biometrics, which again, TSA and CBP already have your picture because they have your passport pictures. So no presentation from the Tampa International Airport is complete without mentioning the flamingo. So I don't know if any of you guys have seen this. It's hard to miss. It's 21-foot flamingo, part of our public art program in the main terminal. We were ranked recently #1 large airport in the country by JD Power and Associates. We were stuck at #2 for a while. We are very proud of this award. We also won awards for best hygiene measures in North America. We were one of the first airports to implement COVID procedures, and we received 2 awards for that. We also just recently, it's not in this presentation, but we also just won an award for best public bathrooms in the country. So Beck was our partner on that. Again, the new bathrooms at Airside C. So if you're flying Southwest, go check out the new bathrooms. We are also very proud of this. This slide, we are one of the top places to work in Tampa Bay. We are very committed to our workforce and are very proud of that slide. So I will take any questions.
Questions, everybody?
Excuse me, Vice Chair Hay.
Yep.
Arizona Jenkins did have his hand up in the chat, so I'm not sure if he has a question on this subject, but I'm going to go ahead and unmute him, and then Arizona, you'll need to unmute yourself as well.
Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Yep.
All right, this is the Tampa Airport, right?
Yes.
So when we get to the airport, for people with disabilities, we have a guy captain that comes out to the vehicle where that deal be going on. Because when we get dropped off at the airport by Hart, there's a drop-off area, and the guy comes out to this and bring you in and take you in for early checking because they have to get you out of the wheelchair and put you into one of their chairs so they can take your wheelchair to the plane. That deal's going on, correct?
Yes. Yes, we do have like all the buses and everything, correct?
And and the guy captain is still visiting you into the aisle chair.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The guy captain is still assisting you into the aisle chair?
I heard is the sky captain still assisting you into the cab?
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we do have SkyCab back. That was one of the things that during COVID, the airlines stopped providing that service, but SkyCab is back.
Okay, so if you can also let them know that when they are loading your personal wheelchair onto the plane, they do not need to lift from the remote control. They need to lift from the bottom because the remote control is movable. So the last time I went on an airplane, they broke my wheelchair. I had to get it fixed. So
Well, I will pass that along. I can absolutely pass that along that they need to lift from the bottom, and I'm really sorry that they broke your bag.
yeah, they can lift from the frame of the chair. Don't lift from the remote control or the control. Lift from the body of the chair. That way you won't break the chair.
I will pass it along. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sarah?
A couple months ago, I remember reading in the Tampa Bay Times, the editorial section, there was a man who wrote a letter to the newspaper. He was a tourist from another city who came to Tampa, and he raved about the airport, how wonderful it was. But then he wanted to explore Tampa and St. Petersburg. And the body of his letter essentially said, you know, your public transit system is a mess. And, you know, if the Tampa Bay region really wants to expand its economy and really cash in on the wonderful airport, you got to have that transit connection there. And I was just curious, like, as part of your planning process, how are you coordinating with PSTA and HART?
So that's a great question. And we are very pro-transit at the Tampa International Airport. And that's why we take our role as voting members of the TPO very seriously. And, you know, with the HART, we have the first express HART buses to the airport now. And part of that was by moving them down to the south part of the rental car center, which was part of phase 1 of master plan. By taking that 3 miles off of that trip, that saved HART the money and the time to add that bus route. And so we are working with HART on additional bus routes. We are also working with PSTA. With our BRT, we're hoping that can eventually connect over here. We are working with all of our transit partners. We've been very supportive of offer transportation, all of those things, because it's, you know, it's international passengers, they get here and you're right, they're used to having transportation and it's not there. And it's not just for the visitors, it's also for the 10,000 jobs that we support here. Not everybody can afford to have a car. And as more people are moving over to Pinellas or to South County or wherever, we need to make sure that our employees also have the options of getting to the airport. So again, we also show in our master plan how the Sky Connect can connect down to the West Shore Multimodal Center eventually. And so all of that is taken into account through our master planning process. And those are our partners that do participate in that process. We're also the 7th largest rental car market in the country, and we're the 28th largest airport. It's not because everybody wants to rent a car. So it's a great question.
Thank you. Karen?
Hey, Gina, Karen Kress, great presentation. Picking up on Sarah's question, and I know that you work with the West Shore Alliance and Pedal Power Promoters to become, I believe, the first airport in the country to become a certified bicycle-friendly business. So congratulations on that. And I was happy to hear you said something about bike share. And I'm curious what those connections via bike and maybe even walking to the airport outside of property look like.
Yeah, so by moving the office, but like by moving the rental car centers down here, we basically have built this transit-oriented development area down by the south, like down to the south end of the property. And the curb, the sidewalks that come out of Sky Center that are connected by an atrium. They connect over into West Shore and then again over to the Pinellas trail system. And so the bike share program we just launched last week, I think we did. And it's been great because we've already seen employees taking advantage of it. And so it's that whole, you just use your phone, rent the bike, you can go wherever. And a lot of people have been using the trail system as well to walk places in West Shore.
So that you include a map that maybe shows all of that just for.
Yeah, I do. I can show, yeah, I have an aerial picture that I can send, but.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Or come out, Karen. We love to host people.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online? All right. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you, guys. Sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning. Have a good day.
Have a good one. All right, I'm gonna go back now. Tampa moves plan update.
Oh, wait, you know what? I'm good to join this.
Or you can let me do it.
That's all right. I'll join from the thing. I forgot about to actually get on to the online stream.
Chris Nunes as a panelist today. Chris, if you're the HART representative, I just need to get an email clarifying so we can officially add you to the roster or make you a voting member. If you're just listening, great, but since we had a few minutes here, I didn't see any of your other colleagues, so if you're the rep and alternate to Omar, then
Does Gail need to know that Larry came in during the,
okay, yeah.
just for the record,
Because he can't see. So yes, Larry Josephson joined us.
in the room?
Yeah, and I think you already got the account card.
Sorry, y'all forgot to join the actual
You
meeting.
want to go on to?
Yeah, we can flip down to the next one.
Yeah, good. And I'll join and be ready.
Okay.
We have Sarah and Chris with the Hillsborough County Paved Trail Big Data Study.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning.
And Lisa, I believe Sarah sent you our slides, or I could share my screen. Do you have a preference?
I sent it to you, figuring that's the best, so you can advance it.
Okay, I will do that. Hold on one second here. And let me call up.
Oh, okay. I can do it instead, since you're mobile, because we're getting a warning that it's not like in your webcam being on.
Okay. Yeah, I am using a hotspot from my phone to connect.
Okay.
So are you able to see it? Or I did share my screen and have the slides up, but if you think it'd be cleaner to do it from your end, that's fine too.
Okay, hold on, let me.
Are you seeing anything?
We're stuck. I made myself presenter like twice.
Yeah, I switched you over as well.
That's fun.
It's for us. Tricks are over.
Everyone online, we're just working through some technical stuff, so stay with us.
Yeah, I am too. I can't, that's why I can't join the thing over here. All right, Lisa, you should be presenter. Lisa, we're supposed to have a attendee link too, right?
You can go to the calendar page and join that way, and I'll move you over. Or.
That's what I did. I'm trying to,
Right. Or you can go find the one that Cheryl sends you
there we go.
by email or
I looked for
on
that
your
one.
calendar,
I didn't see
your
that.
personal calendar. Okay. Okay. I have, oh,
Lisa, did it do anything for you?
yes, but
Okay.
I'm showing, oh, there it is. Okay.
I can see it.
All right. Your title slide should be up.
I can see that now. Okay.
Okay.
Well, good morning, everyone. Can you still hear me? Okay, let me just verify that.
Yes. we
Excuse
can.
me, I'm going to
Yeah.
interrupt for 1 second. We can't see it online,
Oh, okay.
or at least I can't.
I'm seeing it
Wow.
on
You
my
see it
remote one.
online?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's right here too.
Top right. There's a play button.
Got it, thank you.
Big triangle.
No, show screen.
Show screen on the right.
It says now viewing. Lisa, you should be the, yeah, because I'm seeing what Lisa's sharing, right?
Yeah.
So he should be.
Okay, maybe it's just me.
Anyone else online not seeing paved trail trip survey in bright blue?
I'll check mine. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so Pierce, we're good.
Good?
Just-
Okay.
it's not.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Fellerhoff. I work for Hillsborough County Community and Infrastructure and Planning Department, and I'm here to share with you a little bit about a project we did over the spring and summer. We called our Paved Trail Trip Survey. If we go to the next slide, please.
There's a little lag, but
Okay,
I did
all right.
it.
What this project was a big data sourced survey to try to get information about users of our paved trail system in Hillsborough County. We have 17 trails that we looked at in the unincorporated parts of the county, and those were subdivided into 55 analysis zones that the big data vendor we were working with could provide us some information on. And we were able to look at data captured for the entirety of calendar year 2021 from January to December. Next slide, please.
Chris, just
Oh.
pause a second because we're still having some
Yeah,
issues.
I think you guys are seeing slide number 2, which is the white background, but in the room we're not. Okay,
There it goes.
thank you, Jace. Adam, Jace.
All right, sure. It might be on the third slide.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the third slide.
I'm on the 3rd slide on mine.
We're ready to move to the next one, yes? Okay. All right. Are you seeing a map now?
Yes, I am, but the room
Okay.
is not.
Okay. Well, when that flips, what you will see, and I can see the wall in the screen here that it's not flipped, but when it does flip, what you're going to see is a map showing our 17 trails that we studied, which are by and large paved trails owned and operated by, now I've lost the slideshow in my view, owned and operated by Hillsborough County. There are a couple that are within private developments, which are owned by homeowners association, but they're on our map, and we thought we had some data analysis bandwidth available, so we did those. It looks like from the screen you're still seeing the map now in the room.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
Because I'm not seeing the big screen at all anymore, but I know it's on the slide. But you know, there are some very large trails that you're familiar with, such as the Upper Tampa Bay Trail, the new portions of the South Coast Greenway, but then there are also some side path type trails, such as the very long one on US 301, some shorter ones such as on Brandon Parkway, Town and Country Greenway, the Old Fort King Trail, the Flatwoods Trail, if you're familiar with those. But there are various lengths, various trail types scattered throughout the county. So now we can move to the next slide.
Are you seeing it now?
I'm seeing it again, yes, but and I'll let you all take a look. Okay. So now there should be a figure to talk about the type of data we have captured, which includes on this slide spatial data. Have you flipped in the room yet?
We're still having technical problems. This is just the presentation.
Well, I can go ahead and talk, and that will help illustrate when it comes. I think I see you got it there now with those green and white octagons. Among the data captured was spatial data, which we were able to look at with each zone. If a trip captured in a particular zone originated or ended up at a different zone on the same trail, we were able to get data about that. We were also able to get data related to census block groups outside the trails where trips originated and ended up. So we have the way people moved on an individual trail and the way people moved within the community. Then I see, at least on my slide, you've moved to the next, which is describing the temporal data. Like I said, we got the entirety of 2021. So we have breakdowns both by month, and we looked at distributions across days of the week. And then on individual trails, we also looked at dividing kind of clusters of the 3 central weekdays, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, as well as weekends to include Saturday and Sunday together. So we have the weekday, weekend breakdown, 7-day breakdown, and monthly breakdowns. You can move to the next slide, hopefully.
I did. Oh, yes. Okay.
My screen hasn't flipped yet.
Maybe
Okay.
because
There it is. I see it. So I want to give you just a couple examples of some data we gathered on the Town and Country Greenway as an example of the type of stuff that we're able to analyze further with this data that we acquired. If you're not familiar with the Town and Country Greenway, it's over in western Hillsborough County in the Town and Country area, sort of nestled between Sheldon and George Roads and between Hillsborough Avenue and Waters Avenue. For the purposes of our study, we were able to cut it up into 3 zones. As you see on the map on the right, A, B, and C are the divisions, each having different proximity to schools, residences, and parks in the area, and also different connectivity to different roads. And I'll show you on the following slides, we can go ahead and flip, that we're able to look at some differences in the time distribution of the trips in the area, as well as all the other, we have the variety of data I already talked about. What I'm going to show you is some of the patterns, emerging patterns we're able to see in the time distributions. And mine has, now it's flipped. So there's a sequence of 3 slides here, and I'll just describe up front, and then given the lag, we'll just kind of flip 1, 2, 3. But it's showing you the difference between A, B, and C in zones, the distribution of the trips across the entirety of the year 2021 across a 24-hour clock. So you can see on the slide here is zone A. Things start to pick up around 7 or 8 in the morning. I see we flipped to zone B. We still have kind of peaks around what would probably be school arrival and dismissal times, 7 in the morning, 2 to 3 in the afternoon, and then some sustained activity in the evening. As we've ended up, I see it looks like we went back to A. Now we're on B. If we go forward to C now, you'll see that pattern kind of shift through the day, but still it's basically the same with spikes at school arrival and dismissal times. It's a lot more pronounced here on C, but still some sustained activity through the late afternoon and evening. And you'll see on the map that the way it is more pronounced here on C perhaps makes sense because there is indeed a school very close to zone C. there is kind of a big park there as well, but you get the real sharp, perhaps with fewer contributing residences because of the park. You get this kind of sharp, more sharp spike at 7 a.m. and again at 2 to 3 p.m. Now, if we go to, keep your eyes on this time distribution, but go one more slide ahead, this is the same zone, zone C, but on the weekends. And what you'll see happen here is a real smoothing of the trip times across the day, which would suggest that the kind of the school pattern shifts to a recreational pattern, perhaps given the proximity to the park over here on zone C. So this is just kind of one very small example. These maps I'm showing you sliced out of the total year data for the Upper Tampa Bay Trail, I'm sorry, the Town and Country Greenway. Those are just 3 maps. Given our 55 zones across 17 trails, we've got over PDF prints of over 5,000 maps to kind of wade through. There's a lot of analysis and comparison that we have are able to kind of do with this. So we did not kind of get a full trends report where we got this massive kind of export of data with some of these preliminary maps and charts associated with data groups I talked about. Now we go to the next one, I'll show you that also we can see this is the same trail across the same time period, but we're backing out a little bit to look at trip origins linked to census block groups. And you can see that certainly the most intense ones are very close to the trail down there in the middle of the map. But you get quite a distribution. There are low percentages, but you are drawing from a cluster of places proximate to the trail and some further out. This is on the weekday, and if we go to the next slide, you'll see on the weekend, we can even capture, again, they're small numbers, but they're showing us that people come from even farther away on the weekends to use this trail. So we even get some people, a small number, but some people came all the way from Pasco County and ended up on this trail. If we go to the next slide, we'll kind of discuss just some high-level things that we were able to observe from this and some of the opportunities and challenges of having this data available to us now. Oh, I'm sorry. This is just kind of showing also the type of data we have, looking at bike and ped now together, their distribution across the months of the year. One curious trend might be worth looking at is while they kind of both sort of have spring and fall peaks with a decrease in the summer, the bikes seem to peak a little bit more in the fall, where the peds seem to peak a little bit more in the spring. You'll see the highest bike values in September, the highest ped values in March. If we could go ahead a slide. So waiting for it to flip on my screen. Okay, and this is a distribution across days of the week. Personally, I don't see any super strong trends here. There seems to be a bit of a bike peak on Wednesdays, but nothing too pronounced. But again, we've got all this kind of data, like a year's worth on 55 different zones. So there are a lot of different ways to slice and dice it, but we've got it available for analysis, and we can work with our partners, our partner Hillsborough County agencies who operate these trails, and our planning partners to kind of see what it might tell us as we make decisions about our trails going forward. Next slide, please. So some of the real kind of lessons learned and positive opportunities we got out of this, we were able to get data across the entire trail network for the full year. It gives us a much higher visibility than directed counts or intercept surveys would have done, which are other things we had considered in the process of developing this project. This gives us 24 hours a day across 365 days a year. There's a huge volume of data to look at, and it allows for some pretty interesting comparative analysis. We're not quite sure yet on its sort of fine point accuracy of saying this is an exact trail count or these are kind of definitive trip purposes, but we can do some comparative analysis across trails an individual trail across time periods and between trails and kind of infer some trends out of that. Next slide, please.
I got the challenges slide up.
That's all right. And here's the challenges. And of course, one of the challenges, as I described earlier, is the volume of data. Just in kind of cutting the maps that we could out of the data that we set up, we only had 5 or 6 kind of parameters set up, but that generated over 5,000 maps across this many zones. And also, of course, it's for some of these statistics that it generates, such as a trail, the actual user counts and its assumptions about it does assign some trip purposes and things like that. The algorithms on this are proprietary, so you kind of have to accept that the answers they give you, and they have not given us kind of too much insight into how they assign some of those finer values, which is kind of one of the reasons didn't highlight it too much in this presentation, but we do have that data available to us. So that's kind of a quick overview. I think one of the things that this will allow us to do is to kind of prioritize where we might want to ground truth some of this data, do some observations or individual counts to verify some places. Some of our side paths, for example, showed a lot of use that we weren't expecting. So it gives us an idea to maybe go out and verify that, or see if there's some statistical noise from other types of traffic, perhaps moving slowly in proximity to the trail, which looks like a biker bed to the algorithm. Just a lot of things that we can investigate further, but some interesting trends for us to kind of consider as we work. And that's all I've got today. I believe Sarah is also on the line, who worked with me on this project, and we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Mike?
Thanks for the presentation. This data, it's being collected across the entire county. And is there a database where this will live in the way that you could look up FDOT traffic counts or City of Tampa traffic counts?
Well, we purchased from the data vendor specific to these trail zones. So we had to submit to them the areas that we wanted. Now, this type of methodology is used for automotive or motor vehicle traffic analysis a lot also, but we did a specific study and a specific purchase really zeroing in on these specific trails. So with this particular vendor, the way they transacted their business is that we identified the geographic areas and the timeframes we wanted to look at, which we drew some pretty tight bands around the trails so that we knew we were capturing, or at a higher probability of capturing bike and ped trips.
Okay, and then just one more follow-up with that. Was there any of the work that was done to try to figure out where the gaps would be or where the logical gaps are? I know you're looking at some of the Upper Tampa Bay trail areas, and there's a few gaps in the northern and southern end, but you place these monitors just on the trails themselves as opposed to, say, like, a sidewalk or a bike lane on Van Dyke Road.
Yeah, no, this study was to try and capture data about patterns of use on our existing trails. So one could probably design a study using this type of data to look for bike and ped traffic. They have algorithmic strategies where they say among other things, somebody moving at a certain speed or originating in a certain area is most likely a bicycle or a pedestrian. But that's with different vendors. Again, we found they have different levels of kind of transparency of their algorithmic programming that identifies the bikes and peds. But with this one, it's kind of a black box, but one of them is speed. But we had to tell them the very defined limits of what we wanted to capture. And for this study, we only looked at our existing trail network, so we didn't look at gaps. In theory, one could look for that kind of data out on sidewalks and roads elsewhere, but that's not what we did this time.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Hi, I might have missed this in the beginning of your presentation. What was the technology that the vendor used to capture the data?
Again, a lot of it is proprietary, but my understanding that the bulk of the data that this particular vendor uses is, mobile location data from cell phone apps of various types that have people location data on.
Thanks.
So it's obviously it's just a slice of the total user group, and so they have their proprietary algorithms that extrapolate that out into, well, how many people that might really represent and those sorts of things. Which they did provide us those numbers, but I think we are more confident in looking at it as comparative between sites and between times than claiming it as a direct count.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hi, Christopher. Thanks for the presentation. I think my question is very similar to the proprietary data that we're kind of discussing, but it is pertaining to the origin trip slide where you had kind of found people starting their trips from like a regional perspective.
Uh-huh.
Kind of wondering, I think that's kind of a big picture there. How did you get that information?
Well, that was just one of the reports that they were able to generate. And so again, there's some algorithmic stuff, magic behind a black box. But what they have explained to me is that when we set a zone for analysis, they capture all the trips that go through there. And while ultimately the data is anonymized, they can trace that trip back to where it originated before the person passed through the zone. So we had kind of two different maps, both as the person moved up and down the trail, or collectively people moved up and down the trail, and the proportions of them that showed up on other areas of the trail either before or after the zone in question, and that also they can trace that individual back to their home census block.
I mean, it's an incredible slide. I think that was really the wow factor for me. So.
Yeah, and again, some of it's buried in the algorithms. They seem to be claiming that those people would have made that continuing trip on a bicycle from very far away. I have some questions if someone who put their bike on a car and then drove to the trail would be captured differently or not. And again, some of that kind of finer points of accuracy are things that we really kind of have to talk to developers to clarify. So, but given anything, it does show us that at some level people, on different trails, we can compare how far people came to use them. And like I said, we've got our true recreational trails and our side paths and all this kind of stuff. So it will allow some interesting comparisons, but like I said, there's a lot to kind of wade through and see what the patterns are. And we want to share that with our other county partners who are operating the trails. And certainly, if anyone else is interested in looking at it, we can talk.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Chris, did you say who the vendor was that you used for the data?
I did not, because we didn't want to make it an infomercial, but it was Streetlight, and it was kind of interesting because while we were finishing this, we also arranged kind of lunch and learn pitches from numerous other vendors. So we were able to kind of look at this experience as we heard pitches from other vendors about. Some of them have more or less visibility about they will give you data on the number of trips they actually captured, and then their process, extrapolated assumed total trips based on their algorithm. They still won't show the details of the algorithm, but they'll show you the raw data going in, which is something this vendor doesn't do. They only kind of give you the process values at the end. So, but then some of them also had kind of described more or less sources of their data and stuff like that. So kind of getting up to our elbows in this and looking at what it can and can't do was really informative as we heard kind of the pitches from the others. Some of whom want to kind of have a subscription base to a dashboard where you might be able to just kind of run individual queries if you have kind of a continuing relationship with them. Others sell it in batches like it was done on this one.
Any other
Yeah,
questions?
there's just one comment.
Oh, sure.
I thought it was interesting with the weekday versus weekend, and also summer month versus like November and December. The weekdays were higher, weekday use were higher, and then the winter months, November, December, where we had great weather, were lower than the summer months. I just, we get a lot of those questions or comments from people who say like it's not a transportation mode, but more of a recreational trail. And obviously this is not being used solely as a recreational trail, but as a mode of transportation. So just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of our motivation going into this, was we really wanted data to help us say what share, or how many people are using our trails, different trails, as transportation versus recreation. And we were just a little frustrated with kind of the really limited response we could get from an intercept survey. We did an online survey in the past, which, revealed some pockets of response from, particular user groups who are well organized to generate a response. And so this really gives us that broad visibility. We're not terribly confident in kind of the super precision of the counts, but I think the trends are pretty clear, and we can make some reasonable inferences out of that, especially with the time distributions so pronounced to like school times and peak times for commuting versus smoother times for recreation.
Yeah, that data is important too for like streetcar as well. I know it's a different thing, but I know, and I don't know if parts have done anything like that, but I know New Orleans justified a lot of their streetcar expansion by showing the weekday ridership compared to the weekend, and it was like 66% was like commuter trips. So I would imagine that the streetcar here, which is 10% of parks ridership, is basically kind of the same thing, but it's that same conversation of getting people past the point of realizing that these are serious transportation options and not gimmicks, tourist traps, or recreational options. So,
right.
Chris,
yeah, and I think
with
it's one thing we kind of saw that we really need to investigate further, but was really interesting, is that our side path use was showing a lot higher than we anticipated. So it suggests that, a lot of people think that people don't use that, but there's a lot of trips by necessity, and if we're not out there 24 hours a day watching it, we may not think that there's people out there, but it looks like they might be out there. But we have some hunches about how it might, places that there could be, a misassignment of the user as well. If traffic is really congested and our zone reaches into the street, could a slow moving car be mistaken for a bike? I don't know yet. But we did see a lot higher use on some of our side paths than I certainly expected in this data. So, it's stuff to mine further and kind of back up with observational stuff.
Yeah, to that end, if you do some observational stuff around the peak times, now you can focus your time on site to those peak times. And, school-age kids don't all have cell phones. So
right.
Mine is, I think the numbers are going to blow up around those school peak times, like your actual user counts would increase. And the question for the data provider and algorithm developer is it carving out the school run car line that's still and then creeps along and looks like pedestrians?
Yeah.
And that's carved out and you can ground truth to kids, then you can show the transit viability of the system. And it would be for us. The other good news for people listening is, because this data is historical, we may be able to look back in time and look pre versus post, which would be really cool. So go back before we had a facility in place and see what the trends were, and then look at it after the facility is in place.
Right.
Hey, Gail, in case you didn't catch that, that was Tony Monk speaking, just so we have a record.
Any other questions? Anyone online?
No.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Sorry about the technology problems, Chris and Sarah. Clearly, we this interesting topic to the committee.
No, it's all good to me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, now with Tampa Moves Plan update.
Y'all, y'all hear me? Yeah. First, I'd like to apologize for being late, but it's not my fault. It's the lack of transportation options.
So you work on that.
Yeah. So anyway, basically, I know a lot of y'all have probably seen this presentation. We've been shopping around different workshops around the city, but we wanted to present it to y'all today. The first thing that we wanted to look at was through this presentation, we're basically trying to show where we are now, how we got there, what will tomorrow look like, take y'all through a little bit of our funding mechanisms or lack of funding, things like that, and what we actually have in the city. So you can skip one more. So as far as the city's transportation assets, we have 2,250 miles of roads. We have 51 bridges. We have 1,000 miles of sidewalks, 88,000 street signs, and aside from city-owned assets, FDOT and Hillsborough County also own and maintain major roads within the city. Next slide. We have several funding sources, but our primary funding source is the local optional gas tax. We also have fees that are collected, and significant staff time has been pursuing grants to supplement our funding. We've generally we've been pretty good in the last couple of years of getting a lot of state and federal funding, and not to mention the big like build grants or anything, but generally we supplement our transportation program by half just off of FDOT funding. Basically, our average is $11 million per year. May seem like a lot, but it's pocket change compared to our needs. One big thing to know, property taxes do not fund transportation. We get that question a lot, or comment a lot. What we do have are right-of-way permit fees, red light camera running fees, community investment tax sometimes, developer impact fees, which haven't been changed since 1986, low option gas tax, and grants. Next slide. So we spend that $11 million on a variety of services, from resurfacing roads, replacing signs, sweeping streets, maintaining bridges, replacing traffic signals, building sidewalks, and adding bike lanes. Next slide. Our current funding is not keeping up with our basic maintenance needs. So, oh, sorry, this is actually out of order. So our transportation infrastructure needs, so we've gotten quotes, especially lately, for 1 mile of sidewalk, it's been about $800,000. And for 30 miles of repaved road, we're looking at $4.8 million. One new traffic signal is $750,000, and that's cheap compared to other agencies right now. So DOT is started to estimate over $1 million for just one signalized intersection. So right now, the city is able to build about 1 mile of new sidewalk each year. We have 1,000 miles of sidewalk gaps across the city. We repaved about 30 miles of road. You can go back to the previous slide. I'm still on that one. 30 miles of road, and that's $4.8 million. That's what that gets you there. All right. As much as we tried to stretch our dollar, $11 million only gets you so far, and it shows on our infrastructure. So here's some pictures. We have a lot of potholes. Our key bridges, including Marine Bridge to downtown, Cass Street, all have either structural issues or electrical mechanical issues. Our seawalls, is a great picture of one of our seawalls, I believe that's Bermuda. They need to be replaced or repaired. And half of our traffic signals are past their useful life, including the vast majorities of the ones downtown and at Deepwater. Next up.
There's a 10-second delay. I've already changed it. You can just keep talking.
Well, yeah, well, it's funny because yours are a little out of order on mine. Okay, so,
It's there now.
yeah, so we're good. But we all know there's a problem. I don't have to tell you that everybody knows that. We experience it every day. We sit in traffic, we drive over potholes, we pass by crashes, we walk on streets without sidewalk, we miss our bus or have to wait an hour in the rain for the next one. We all have stories and our frustrations. Next slide. So, are you on PowerPoint, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. You can hit the button. There they go. All right. So too many streets in Tampa look like this. This is 40% of our roads are in poor or failing condition. The longer we wait to repave, the worse the pavement condition becomes, and the costs grow exponentially. Pavement fails on an exponential rate. So the older the pavement, the worse off, more costly it is to repair, and the quicker it deteriorates. We resurface 30 miles of road each year. That may sound like a lot, but you can drive on that many miles just running a couple of errands, maybe even getting here tonight or getting here today. This puts Tampa on a 75-year resurfacing cycle. There was a date up there, that 2097. That date is the next time you'll see your road resurface. So that's when we can resurface all the roads within Tampa. But just imagine that 29, then we have to resurface again. If we just had to do it once, that's how long it would take us, and then we have recurring needs. But the big number there is we are on a 75-year paving cycle. Roads in Tampa are unsafe as well. An average 44 people die on our roads in Tampa each year, and 289 are severely injured for life. 2021 was particularly horrifying, with almost double the normal year fatality average, with 81 lives lost on roads in Tampa. Next slide. Transportation costs are high as well. Housing costs are the single largest expense for most households in the area. When combined with transportation costs, they account for approximately half the average U.S. household budget. In the Tampa Bay area, housing and transportation costs cost about 56% of the average household cost. Housing affordability is typically defined as housing that requires no more than 30% of a household's income. Factoring in both housing and transportation costs provides a more comprehensive way of thinking about the cost of housing and true affordability. In dispersed areas, people need to move to own more vehicles and rely upon driving them further distances, which also drives up the cost of living. Even if you don't ride transit, it benefits everyone. We know that it supports the entire community in an indirect way, if not a direct way. Supporting transit takes cars off the road, reduces emissions, and supports safer streets. If we all invest in our transportation network, we can invest in a transportation network that will help to solve our housing affordability crisis as well. Tampa drivers spend on average 48 hours sitting in traffic in 2021. The Tampa area ranks 12th in the nation as one of the most congested cities in America. I'm going to share a personal one on this one. So I think a lot of y'all know that my wife's from Dunedin, so I lived there and I commuted. I calculated, this was pre-pandemic, but just my commute to my car, the time I spend is 87 days. And so the first 87 days of the year is just me commuting to and from work. So if you think about it that way, the opportunity costs, or forget opportunity costs, what I mean by that, the life costs that you have where you're just sitting and driving, that's pretty immense. So it's a 22-mile. Not that big. And we're growing rapidly. Okay. We literally have a new downtown that popped up in what seems overnight. So this is 2018. Next slide. This wasn't even, this slide actually says it's 5 years. This is 2022. This wasn't even 5 years. So Hillsborough County is expected to have 700,000 new residents in the next 3 decades. And that's just this county. As y'all know, Tampa is the city center, where the major job market here. So we also take in residents from other counties, which are also growing around the area. you can, the next slide is just a holder. How did we get here? You can go to the next one. So the federal gas tax was last raised on October 1st, 1993, the same year that the classic movie Groundhog Day was unveiled to the American public. In the film, Bill Connors gets caught in a time loop and spends decades reliving the same cold February day in Pennsylvania. Those of us lamenting the 30-year stagnation of the federal gas tax can't help but feel some of the same sense of repetition. Since lawmakers set the federal gas tax at 18.3 cents per gallon in 1993, both construction cost inflation and vehicle fuel efficiency gains have taken a sizable bite out of the tax's purchasing power. Taken together, these two factors have reduced the purchasing power of the 18.3 cents gasoline tax by 64%. To make up for lost ground, the rate today would need to be increased by nearly 33 cents to 50.8 cents per gallon. Next slide. This shows a graph of the decline here, but think about it this way. Imagine making the same salary as you did 30 years ago, but have to pay for everything in today's dollars. That is our transportation funding reality. Next slide. So we need to shift our priorities and take bold actions to do things differently. Next slide. There was a slide missing in there. I just wanted to go over it, just so everybody knows. Gas tax is levied cents per gallon, not the total cost of the or like percentage. So 1 gallon of gas might cost you $2 one year, $5 next. The gas tax is. All right. So Mayor is frequently, heard saying Tampa is going to change more in the next 10 years than it has in my entire lifetime, which is why she embarked on a massive planning effort called Transforming Tampa's Tomorrow. When she first took office, she asked community leaders, how should we transform Tampa's tomorrow? When you think about transportation in Tampa, we're so far behind other cities with their level of investment that we think that we're first. We've heard from our community about what doesn't work, the poor state of our roads, the need to improve congestion on our roads, and the lack of sidewalks and the lack of quality and frequent transit. Understanding our problems today, the city has been engaging with the community to answer what's our vision. That's what this presentation is for. Transforming Tampa's Tomorrow includes finding ways to minimize traffic congestion, bring smart and accessible transit solutions to Tampa, and efficiently investing our transportation funds where we need them most. Beyond looking internally, the mayor recognizes the critical need for regional connections, including transit to unincorporated Hillsborough County. Next one. So right now, you can.
I skipped the titles.
Yeah. So what do you want Tampa's Tomorrow to look like? All right. Last year, the city conducted a survey as part of the MOVE's outreach. These findings informed our next step: reliable infrastructure. 68% rank adequate infrastructure as extremely important. Next slide. Yeah. More options for getting help, go, and then you'll see the picture. More options for getting around. 80% would like to walk, bike, or use transit instead of driving. Traffic congestion ranked as the biggest mobility challenge. Next slide. A robust transit system. Robust transit system ranked highest of all needed mobility options. Streets as places. People-focused streets, walkable neighborhoods with a mix of uses in retail, mixed-use development, art in the right-of-way, more landscaping in the right-of-way, things that make a street a place. And then safe streets. 85% ranked safe and comfortable walk and bike facilities as extremely important. 77% want to be walking distance from school or work. Equity in decision-making. Clear, transparent decision-making and for everyone's voice to be heard. A resilient city. 52% rank protections from major storm events and sea level rise is extremely important. And then how will we get there? Well, we have your vision for Tampa equals Tampa moves. Your vision looks like this. Being able to walk, bike, and take transit to more destinations. Spending less time sitting in traffic. Living in a healthier, cleaner city. Spending less money on transportation. Traveling around Tampa safely. But these are your input helped us form our guiding principles, which comprise the letters and moves. These principles inform how projects are prioritized. Okay, next slide. So Tampa Moves is our framework, and then the projects that we're looking at will be brought about from these focus areas up here. Excuse me. Maintain existing assets, build walk and bike network apps, create streets as places, make streets safer for everyone, support effective transit, and manage congestion through technology. The process we took with the Tampa Moves plan involved identifying gaps in our transportation system and then specific solutions or projects to address those gaps. Then the gaps are prioritized through a data-driven process that aligns with the Moves guiding principles. For example, you can go to the next slide. Here's our sidewalk prioritization map. To give a concrete example of what this looks like, we tested our approach with sidewalk gaps across the city. We looked at all sidewalk gaps and gave them scores based on criteria such as proximity to schools, transit, and location within a community concern or on a Vision Zero corridor. What resulted is a map that shows the highest needed sidewalks in red down to the lowest needed sidewalks in blue. Before we just used customer people like wherever the request came in, which if that were the case, Roosevelt Elementary would have a sidewalk all over the place.
What?
I don't know why.
That's a quick question.
We then compared the sidewalk priorities map to our map of sidewalk requests, and the results were astounding. We found that one of the highest needed areas for sidewalks had virtually no sidewalk. This showed us that moving forward towards a data-driven approach to how we identify and prioritize projects is not just an efficient use of our budget, but is also a more equitable way of conducting business. This is how we plan to identify and prioritize projects going forward under the following project focus areas. All right, thanks.
Where is that
I think it's East Tampa over by like Sulphur Springs area.
Okay.
I just have to plug in, they use this school study and folded that into this. So
Yeah.
that's where you can go like it's the ranking.
Actually, you.
Go back to the school sidewalk.
No. It just skipped a bunch, so hold on. All right. First off, I'll look at Cheyenne. So the Tampa Moves commitment, listen first and listen again. Lead with data, distribute resources equitably, align resources and policies, seek funding from every possible source. Our administrator says hashtag OPM, other people's money. That's what we try to look for all the time. And then achieve greatest impact. This was actually at a Open Streets event we did on one of our high entry network roads, Critical Corridor, 14th Street or Avenida de la República de Cuba, I think it's. So anyway, this was very successful. It was we gathered a lot of data from the area, from the residents. It was kind of, we had to boost that up and everything like that. And we're moving forward with quick build in this area to address some of the safety concerns we have there. Next slide. All right, so the next steps. Some of these are passed, but let's see, what's today's date? The 26th of all of these are
Right.
passed.
But the web link takes you to the rescheduled ones and the future ones.
Right.
And you can just go online and comment too.
Yeah.
Or tell them today.
The biggest thing here is that website, tpamoves.org. If y'all have any comments, if y'all want to leave input, you don't have to wait for a town hall or anything like that, but that's the big one that y'all should remember. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Michael.
Carl's goes first.
First of all, great presentation. I was impressed. Can you clarify the 30 miles? Are those lane miles or is it just an average 2-lane, 4-lane highway?
No, it's the 30 miles, it depends, because collector roads, it's lane miles. If it's local, it's usually just centerline miles. So the issue that we have there is that the local roads cost a lot more than collector roads. And the reason why is local roads treatments, the collector roads are actually going to get repaved on a more frequent schedule. So we're kind of putting Band-Aids on collector roads right now. Local roads, because they're so in such terrible conditions, grand trees, things like that, you basically need reconstruction to actually get them to function. So that's one of the big things there. We just did a neighborhood where Tony lives, but over in Richmond Park, and that neighborhood was $2.5 million. So you take that $11 million out, you start looking at the neighborhood costs. And I have another one that's right now we're budgeting 3.5 because it's the worst piece side we have in the city. But $2 million per neighborhood is about what we spend.
And the roads that were built 75 years ago, ours were built on sand, some of them. And so you go, I was going to repave a road. And you find out it's just built on sand.
I know my neighborhood is sand, brick, asphalt on top. Some of them are still brick. Some of them.
Yeah, that one was pavers, not asphalt. There's a lot of or asphalt pavers in Richmond Park, and then I know your neighborhood as well. So that's the challenges we face with that.
First of all, obviously being sarcastic about, Roosevelt getting all
So same here.
But yeah, I mean, Sulphur Springs, I mean, there's beyond a sidewalk issue, there's road issues, and et cetera, going on. That's why they always go for the safe streets. But my question is, as a part of this effort, are you looking at street classifications and other mechanisms that would require more from development? Like, for example, in West Shore, you have a certain street classification, you have to build a sidewalk to X specifics. So can more of that be done to maybe handle some of those local roads? Maybe some of these local roads could be up classified. And now when development occurs, that development has to pay for, maybe not the paving, but it's paying for the intersection improvement or the sidewalk because now that is a higher classification of street.
Yeah, absolutely. We're redoing the entirety of our street classification, our typologies. And with that, also identifying bike corridors, transit corridors, things like that, that when a project comes up or a maintenance need comes up on a corridor, we already know what the priority is. So that's being looked at holistically, and it will, that's actually one of the parts of the Tampa Moves plan. We'll completely redefine that.
Yeah, I have it on my to-do list to request it when it's ready enough to bring through the committees because they're updating their fees.
Right.
Excuse me, I believe Arizona has a question as well. Arizona, you can unmute now.
Yeah, I had a question about the bike drill. The other thing before this one, when you have your bike down Tampa Street going downtown, the bike drill is in the middle of the cars are going down both sides. The question is, the question is for Karen, do you feel safe riding your bike down there?
I didn't get you.
I heard bike lane down Tampa Street from downtown. It's kind of in the middle. I think you mentioned.
Yeah.
I believe that this question is actually for Chris Vellerhoff.
The question is for Karen. Karen Chris.
Yep.
Do you feel safe riding your bike in the middle of the road?
Having the bike in the middle of the road, you know, I'll address something on that. We have plans. We have a project that's been kind of languishing for several reasons in our downtown floor. But Tampa Street, the city of Tampa owns a portion of Tampa Street south of Jackson. And we are moving the bike trail or the bike lane back behind parking on that project. And it is funded. It's just there's other concerns that we have to get around first. And then reprioritizing a part of that project, which is Brewery, we're looking at actually possibly two-waying it sooner rather than later through a quick build. So it was one that we've been studying for a while. And right now we're trying, with Thea's coordination, we are looking at how their ramps are coming in and maybe two-waying Brewery to accommodate them and so that they can we can do something a little bit different from what Thea is looking at Whiting. So that's that's what we've been working with Thea directly on, and it's actually pretty exciting. I think once that's all settled, it's going to be really a great thing to do. But anyway, that is one thing, Arizona, and the other thing is the FDOT has something called their it's a RAISE project, where they're actually going to be installing new sidewalk, much wider sidewalk on Florida and Tampa, all the way down to Tyler, and then they'll be resurfacing from Tyler all the way down to Jackson. So on both Florida and Tampa. So there is options there to work with them, and we've actually asked them to include NACTO standards in their design criteria, and so far we haven't heard. They seem to be totally fine with that. So that would be a huge benefit to actually getting some safer bike lanes on those two streets or bike facilities, I should say.
Okay, and then one other question is, the one that tells that with transportation, are we gonna ever get that? So we can have better transportation?
Well, the right now the lawsuit for this referendum, it kind of killed that, but yeah, I don't know. That's out of our hands. That's whether or not they put it back up on the referendum again.
Because if we want better transportation than we have now, we're not gonna get it until we get that on one day.
Yeah, and it's with that referendum, it was the first one that did pass in 2018. 47%, I believe, went to ART, which was a huge amount of money that would really transform the transit system. But the nice thing about that is all the agencies had larger budgets, and then they all worked together to make something that works. It's not, ART just can't do it all on their own. They need the city to provide safer streets and transit-oriented streets for them to operate in an efficient way. So it really would make a big difference. It would have quintupled our budget personally.
Okay, this is Lisa Silva on the surtax. What I can tell you is the past one in 2018 is still up at Tallahassee with a committee deciding how and where it gets spent. So it's unknown. The current one has been appealed, so the judge made a decision, and then the BOCC appealed it. So as we understand it, you continue to vote on the referendum, and it'll get sorted out in the courts.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Great, Chris.
All right. Up,
Got one more, good
our multimodal level of service report with Connor.
one. Okay, you're running it up there? Great, okay. As he gets going, I want to make sure my people that parked across the street are good to go. Here we go.
That's came in late too. To show that he's here.
I already texted the recording secretary. Gail is the recording secretary, so when you tell me that you're having an RSVP, you need to tell her as well. She keeps the list. So you guys, some of you are doing good, most of you are not. Okay, right. All right, so Cheryl sent you the scheduler, telling Cheryl she just sends it back to me and Gail. So let's try to get better about that. She also gives you parking passes, so tell her you're coming. Are you good to go? Thank you,
Yes.
Connor, for that break.
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, I'm Connor McDonald, TPO staff. This is you all in person from me. I'm here to present a status update on the multimodal level of service report. So I'll begin just by giving you the purpose of the report. The purpose is to record. Absolutely. So the purpose is to record and produce a comprehensive list of major roadways and their multimodal operating conditions. And those major roadways are defined on the TPO's network, which is the source is federal documentation. So the background, many of you might be familiar with level of service, but it was a concept developed for vehicles as a measure of inconvenience or delay. So in these images, you can see like a level of service A where there's minimal traffic congestion, and then level of service F would be pretty heavy traffic congestion. So then afterwards, later on, research then explored new methods to qualify safety and comfort for bicyclists and pedestrians. So you can see these images. A level of traffic stress 1 would be comfortable for all ages and abilities. So in the image, it depicts a cyclist on a separated bike track, and then an LTS 4 would be uncomfortable for most, so no bicycle facilities on a heavily traveled highway or road. So the project history for this report, recent history, is that in 2017, we evaluated existing methodology and established level of traffic stress standard. Earlier this year, many were Wade, he came to this committee. We used a finer gradient of existing conditions for bicycle and pedestrian level of service. And we applied this to all roads within the county for bicycles and pedestrians. And then this summer, we incorporated these two methodologies into the database and reviewed an updated transit level of service calculation. So coming soon, we'll have the report for the roadways in the TPO network. So the upcoming report will use corresponding jurisdictions' level of service guidelines for vehicle level service. So this would be unincorporated Hillsborough County, City of Tampa, and city roads, and FDOT guidelines for state roads. And then we'll use our guidelines that include the LTS methodology for bicycle, pedestrian, and then our updated transit level of service. So very soon, we will post the 2022 multimodal level of service report at planhillsborough.org /level of service report. And we will be coming back with an action item, I believe, maybe to this committee. So we'll have a chance to further analyze this a little bit more. And with that, that concludes my short presentation. Do you guys have any comments or discussion?
When do you anticipate it coming back?
I know that we may be trying to go to the board in January, so I think December is.
No, I just was, if they needed to pay attention so that they're acting on it next month, I wanted to let them know.
All right, questions? Sarah?
This is Sarah. Does the TPO continue to consider and review other types of methods for measuring level of service aside from volume capacity?
Right, so we follow the guidelines that are in the comprehensive plan and land development codes, following like the jurisdictions for vehicle level service. And for the other methods, we have stayed on track with new research to which the other modes are up to date. Hopefully that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I would just mention that there's some really interesting work going on in the state of California that was instigated by state legislation, but methodologies developed by Caltrans that are now being used at the municipal level. Los Angeles and San Jose are really good examples. They've done away with LOS, and they're using VMT as their primary method of measuring the impacts of not just land development, but transportation improvements, with the goal being to reduce induced demand, to get rid of induced demand. So in other words, they're trying to rein in the effect that highway capacity expansion induces more car travel. So it's some really interesting work, and it might be something that the TPO would be interested in looking into.
Absolutely, thank you.
Isn't your team doing a little bit of vehicle mile travel research? And this is kind of a step towards maybe.
Yes, so we do a lot of the VMT in relation to the performance measures.
Any other questions? Karen?
Connor, how will the information be used? Will this help us prioritize our funding in the future?
Good question. I think it probably will come into the tip when we get there into prioritization. What we use internally, a few examples that we use, the local service report, and the TPO is we use it for ETDM reviews, which environmental demand.
Transportation demand management. Yes, this committee does those.
Okay. And then we also use it for comprehensive plan amendments. So we review those for the planning commission, just stating what we view the current level service to be on the roadways near a property. And of course, we do the like what's the existing condition analysis, and then use our TIP and our long-range transportation plans.
Yeah, I think
also very helpful for our kind of corridor studies and our school studies. Like we know that MMLOS is just the vehicle level service. That's way better data to go into those types of
choose where to do your planning.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
It
sounds like what Sarah brought up would be a great path for us.
Right. Any other questions? Anyone online?
Let me check the chat.
No. All right. Thank you, Connor.
Thank you.
All right. I think that's it, at least for the status reports. Old business and new business.
I do have a couple of items. This is Lisa. So I've told you about Gail. Please RSVP to Gail as well. And then today you've been given a little treat of a hopefully on here. Feel free to take it with you or leave it if you'd like us to recycle it. So the last few months, I don't want to spoil you, but we've had a pretty concise agenda or cancellations. But I've looked ahead at December and November, and they're pretty meaty and full agenda. So please don't think you can just dash out to the party. We may go long, so fairly warned. And then congratulations. You guys selected 2 Livable Roadway members as your Gulf Coast Paved Streets Summits Award recipients this year. So I'm not bragging about it too much outside of this room because they'll be receiving their awards on November 3rd, next Thursday. So please attend if you would like to. Emily Hinsdale was selected as the visionary of the year. And Bob Fry is our Bob the Builder. And then just a little teaser heads up that we're going to also acknowledge them in front of the TPO board. It's planned for December 14th, so barring an agenda snafu and getting it farther out, that's what we're anticipating. So if anyone wants to tune in or come by to give them kudos, that's what's on track. All right. Anybody else have any
Anything else?
announcements?
All right, I move to adjourn.
But one second, we had our El Prado meeting last night, I should say, sorry. At El Prado Boulevard, we had a secondary public meeting, it's a lane diet, repurposing, right sizing, where we're doing a bike connection from West Shore to Bay Shore. So, if y'all have any comments, the email address is simply elprado@tampagov.net. So feel free to make comments, and we'll have 60% plans up. We actually might go ahead and put those on the website because we're getting a lot of questions about them. And then the presentation, it was videoed, so we'll have that up on the website once we get it from the consultant. But if y'all want of the presentation itself, the PDF's on there, but the video will be on there soon because we did get a lot of questions after the fact.
All right.
I was going to throw in, we wrapped up National Walk to School Day a couple weeks ago, and it was the largest one we've had yet in Hillsborough County, and hope it's going to be even larger next year.
Right. Anything else? All right, I guess we're adjourned, right?
Yeah, so
Yes.
Emily will be on a Safe Routes to School webinar that Jason is hosting that Friday. We got all kinds of collaborations that are being, go forth and keep planning great stuff.
Hey, Lisa, just submit things as attachments to the